I'm going to start off with a disclaimer that this is sort of a gimmick build I made for fun. If you were expecting some god tier immortal AFK Waxwings build from me, no. You are going to get some stupid build where I don't even bother putting armor on most of the time. Despite that, this build does require a fair amount of positional awareness for you and your team, as do all tank builds, because if you aren't aware, you or someone on your team could flop like a fish. Some of you could already guess the gimmick in the background footage, but let me try to explain it for those who don't fully understand it. So the gimmick for this build is ADS Dreadnought. Essentially, you are tankier against bigger hits, but weaker against faster, smaller hits. To get a little bit more specific, starting off with the first line, you are now unable to receive more than 30 damage at once from any direct anomaly damage. So, anything above 30 damage is reduced back down to 30 damage. But let's say a Hellwalker hits you before hazard 20. They normally do 55 damage without any damage reduction. Dreadnought doesn't care, so it just sets the damage you take to 30. Oh, and just keep in mind, it does not work against true damage attacks from like Ghosts, Shredwalkers, Freya, and so on and so forth. Anyways, the next line of Dreadnought states, this damage cap is increased by 5 for every mutation level. So basically that message you get on the screen on hazard 20, 40, and 80. The damage you will take will increase to 35 after you kill Night Demon, 40 after you beat hazard 40, and 45 after you kill the BSD operatives in hazard 80. You may be wondering this is a horrible downside, but there is still one more line that's for some reason cut off, which reads, this damage cap takes place before calculating damage resistance. This is where you can make Hellwalkers hit the same as the Grunts. So, let's take this Hellwalker for example. According to the Trello, they can hit you for 88 damage above hazard 80. Dreadnought brings this damage down to 45, then you can reduce it further with damage reduction. Yeah, as you can see, this guy did not do 45 damage at hazard 89. The second gimmick of this build is I Won the West, which is our way of sustaining HP. You shoot things with your pistol to heal. This allows us to outsustain most of the bosses in this game even without the help of outside healing sources like a PMS, allowing us to tank things like Freya as long as you don't miss. Then there is only one more perk that I believe to be mandatory for this gimmick to work, which is the CRC Light Vest. I won't go too into detail on the math and effective HP of things, but this allows you to tank some obscene things and makes hordes a little bit more bearable to deal with if needed. Now, the rest of these perks are optional, and you should pick whatever feels good to use, but either way I will explain my choices for what I use currently. Personally, I use the Texas Red, since it is simply one of the best pistols in the game. I seem to usually run into the problem, many times, where there is a big armored target just blocking hits or a Mercwalker being a nuisance. So this weapon is perfect if you need to get rid of them and go somewhere else, or help a teammate out. Next is leg implants, because it is actually very important to go where you need to go in a timely manner. Sometimes you are forced to go where you are needed, but need to help the team or get helped by the team as soon as possible, and getting slowed down is the last thing you want. This clip is a perfect example for why I use leg implants, since in this clip I lured them back to the team to jump her while baiting out the shout she does that should cripple me. Although, I can just ignore the cripple since I have leg implants. Doing this also made it so she doesn't have that stupid invulnerability when she reaches the team. Now we only have 2 more points left. Originally, this build ran reload drills to make the reloads faster, since less downtime means more healing for this build, which I highly recommend. Although, the more I played this build, the more I found myself being the de facto anchor on Corruptor for some reason, so unfortunately I am running hWorld and spare mags because people refuse to believe in me to shelter them or something. Now onto the specializations, starting with Holdout. First of all, how the hell is this a tier 1 specialization? This thing is so laughably strong since you can ignore anti-heal, which is one of the few things that can kill you with this build. This allows you to get away with things like wearing Night Demon as a hat. Probably the strongest tier 1 specialization of any class, bar none. Next is the tier 2 specialization. I might sound kind of dumb right now, but I use Last Laugh not even for the armor explosions, funnily enough, because I don't even put armor on 90% of the time. The 20 damage reduction makes this build exponentially tankier to bigger hits, while helping with the smaller hits as well. The tier 3 specialization is Oblivion, not because it doesn't have a downside, but mostly because you can kill things by shooting the air. Since the enemies only need to be quote-unquote in front of you, the burn and bleed can kill most of the trash while doing significant amounts of damage to some bosses while aiming upwards. And trust me, you will be looking up at some feet very often with this build. The last specialization I mostly use is Guardian and Exile, because the damage boost and damage reduction is extremely good considering this build is more of a hybrid tank and DPS, allowing you to just eat Gambit fanfires if you have 3 or more stacks of Guardian. Just make sure to have armor on in higher hazards because Gambit won't be the only thing that's hitting you. Now for the starting loadout, which is spare mags for the primary slot, and, I hope I'm saying this right, the Asmania for the pistol slot. Then, for the auxiliary, use anything besides the stagnate. If you have been noticing a trend with these videos, I really like MTI stim because I hate gas. Then, for equipment, I prefer combat stims, but enforcer grenades make sense here, also if you want more coverage with anchor corruptions. For the endgame loadout, I would recommend having 2 pistols you like, which is the 2 Texas Reds in my case for the 2 primary slots, and the Pepper Shaker for the 3rd and final pistol slot. Then, for equipment, I would always have combat stims, enforcer grenades, and tomahawks for one-shotting blitzwalkers with gauntlets on shove. Although, feel free to test out other melees, I just have a weird affinity towards gauntlets apparently. Now let me explain how to actually play this build. There are a lot of nuances to being a tank for the team, and you learn them through playing, but I can at least guide you into the right direction. First and foremost, you are not invincible. You can die very easily if you stand in the wrong spot. Make sure you respect the green tox gas, move out of it whenever possible, and be facing in the direction of the horde so Oblivion can kill the trash mobs. Another thing to respect are Tread and Reap Walkers. Those guys can and will destroy you, so immediately kill them if you hear one close by when you are tanking a boss. The general gameplay for tanking the boss is either wait or drag the boss towards your DPS, shelter as many of your teammates as possible, then position the boss so you aren't blocking the bullets from your DPS or keys in a player or whatever you have. If you are tanking a boss like Kojiro, make sure to try and put on an enemy plate so you can eat the big dash crits because that cannot insta-kill you on Avenger if you have armor on due to one-shot protection. Another tip is to make sure to combat stem often because reloading faster is a good thing, so please do it when you have nothing else to do. Then there are anchor corruptions. You should wait a little bit until the person actually gets on the anchor for about 1 to 2 seconds, then shelter. Although in some cases, you don't need to shelter at all, and just you being there is enough. In other cases, you should shelter before they actually get on the anchor. There's a lot of nuance to that, and you sort of need to learn to do it based on who is uncorrupting and what is happening. Just make sure to use the tag restocks when you get the chance during these events. Also, try to never be the first one at the anchor corruption as Avenger. Always be the second guy if possible because sometimes you can get your teammate killed because you were waiting at an anchor but the horde insta-kills your teammate because you went first. And for my final tip, if no one else is doing the anchors, do it yourself. Even if you don't got hWorld, it might just work out in the end. Just wanted to say thanks for all the support for the previous videos. I'm more or less surprised that people actually watch this stuff despite the game having less than 200 players active at this time. Anyways, if you are still here, see ya later, probably.